Duskull, the Requiem Pokémon, and Dusclops, the Beckon Pokémon. Welcome everyone, I'm exceptional and I hope you are too. Today we will be exploring a solo challenge of Pokémon FireRed, including the Round 2 Elite Four, using only my starter. Further details are in the description, but my general rules are, I can only use my starter in battle, no items in trainer battles except held items, no glitches, exploits, or RNG manipulations, and I don't particularly like accuracy and evasion strategies, so I will tend to avoid them. So far in my challenges, I've played with a lot of Pokemon that are either fairly balanced or tilted towards offense. Duskull and Dusclops, on the other hand, skew towards being much more slow and defensive. When I first investigated this run, I saw a learn set that included Psychic, Ice Beam, and Calm Mind. With a fast growth rate, I immediately thought, "Aw, sweet! A ghost version of the Clefable run that I had so much fun with!" Oh, I was wrong. Duskull starts with an interesting moveset. Nightshade is a ghost-type move that deals fixed damage equivalent to your level. It's actually a fantastic move for a Pokemon that doesn't have a ton of offensive capability, but the drawback is that we can't hit normal types. In fact, the first move that we learn organically that will hit normal types isn't until level 27. This is going to require some careful routing early. As a mono ghost type though, we have a distinct advantage in the early game. Most moves that our opponents will be using are normal type, which can't hit us either. In fact, barring Rival 1.5 on Route 22, who we will avoid because we can't hit his Pidgey, we can only be hit by Poison Stings from Weedle, which we also resist, and Rock Tomb from Brock. Another drawback of Nightshade is that it only has 15 PP. Given our low level, we aren't doing a ton of damage and most Pokemon require 3 to 4 shots, so we can only defeat a maximum of 5 Pokemon between Pokécenter visits. I considered depleting our power points to use Struggle, but with Leer, Disable, and Foresight at level 12, that's 90 PP to deplete. I think running to the center is faster. Alright, that was a ton of information right off the bat, so let's check out Brock. As you saw, I only cleared 2 bug catchers to this point. I decided to also defeat Camper Liam for an easy 402 experience. Because of Sand Attack though, I missed enough Nightshades that I need to go back to the Pokécenter before taking on Brock. At level 11, I know that I need 3 hits for each of his Pokemon, so that's 6 PP total. Brock himself is actually quite straightforward. His lead Geodude's only offensive option is Tackle, so he can't hit us at all. He has 31 health, so 3 Nightshades doing 11 damage each are required to take him out. Brock's Onix has Rock Tomb, which can absolutely hit us. He uses it first turn and it's only doing 7 damage. Base 90 defense for the win. Onix has 33 health, so this means that he needs 4 hits to take us down while we only need 3. We claim our first gym badge. The early game fun though is far from over. Route 3 and Mount Moon are littered with trainers that have normal types, which we still can't hit. Fortunately, there are enough options that we can avoid them, for now. I make my way through the route defeating only the bug catchers because they're the only ones whose teams I can hit. In Mount Moon, I duck down the second ladder to grab TM46 Thief. This dark-type move finally allows us to hit normal types and not a moment too soon, as we have a mandatory rocket coming up with a Rattata. I've been clearing a couple of additional trainers along the way as I'm very worried about what awaits us in Cerulean City. I of course grabbed the Helix fossil. I'm quite fickle about this choice, so if I'm convinced otherwise, I'll happily start grabbing the Dome fossil. Let me know in the comments which one you think is better. In Cerulean, we have 2 options for progression, Misty or Rival 2. Our only move that can hit his very daunting Pidgeotto is Thief, so I elect to face Misty instead. I also defeated both trainers in her gym for the XP before equipping a Person Berry and challenging our second gym leader. Staryu starts off trying to harden because of course it outspeeds us. Speed is not Nyx's forte. Staryu has 38 health, so 2 Nightshades at level 20 will take it down. She uses Water Pulse on turn 2, confusing us, but that's what the berry is there for. Starmie is out and her first Water Pulse hits for over half of our remaining health. Ow. With 56 health, we need 3 Nightshades to defeat her. Next turn, she finishes us with a Water Pulse. That felt fairly definitive, so how about Rival 2? Another thing I was wrong about in my initial planning was thinking that as a ground-type move we'd be immune to Sand Attack with our ability Levitate. Nope. It's a bit of a chip fest back and forth, but we do defeat Pidgeotto. Abra is free, but because we miss 4 out of 6 moves, having only taken 1 Sand Attack, gosh, I dislike that move. Squirtle ends up taking down Nyx. I tried the battle again, but because of the power, or more accurately baloney, of Sand Attack, we wiped again. I head to the grass as it's our only option to train. At level 23 we learn Confuse Ray, which will hopefully tilt the odds in our favor. I actually use both rare candies that I've collected to this point to reduce grinding. As a fast growth rate Pokemon, I have a sneaking suspicion that we won't need as many later. With Confuse Ray on our side, we serve rival 2 our own brand of baloney. We don't buy that off-brand stuff though, so with our superior baloney, we take the victory. Just past Nugget Bridge on Route 25, I make sure to pull down Camper Flint to gain early access to TM43's secret power. My goodness, it's gonna feel good to have a move with a bit more oomph on our side. There have been multiple extra trips to the Poké Center to restore our PP. I rescue Bill and come back to Misty's gym for round 2 against her. Staryu remains a 2-shot, this time with secret power, which gets a paralysis on turn 1, allowing us to move first and take her down with a second. Her Ace Starmie is out and I confuse it turn 1 to try and cut its consistency. Water Pulse is still doing around a quarter of our max HP, but after a few turns and some confusion shenanigans, Starmie falls and we obtain Badge 2. Jumping ahead to Rival 3 on the SSN, Duskull's power is definitely rising as because of our outstanding defensive stats and finally having some diversity on our moveset, we move slowly through each of his Pokemon. We take some hits throughout, but still end the battle in green health. Lieutenant Surge isn't that threatening to us, but because of his love of Thunder Wave and Raichu's love of Double Team, we do have to be careful. I have a Cherry Berry equipped, so we knock out Voltorb and Pikachu at just over half health because we missed so many times against Pikachu. Against Raichu, I try confusing him, but Surge immediately uses a full heal. Well, that's a net 0, let's try attacking. I end up getting a lucky paralysis, but even without it, I feel confident we would have won. We could have taken one more shockwave. After making our way through Rock Tunnel, we find ourselves in the mid-game, where things are starting to feel a lot smoother. We're also creeping ever closer to level 37, which is when we'll evolve into Dusclops. My plan for the mid-game is to prioritize acquiring Special Attack and Speed EVs. Despite Ghost being a physical type in this generation, we have a setup move in Calm Mind in the near future, which increases our special stats. This is also why I chose a Modest Nature, increasing Special Attack and decreasing Attack. I also want to be saving as much money as possible to buy TM13 Ice Beam. I continue along, starting the rocket plotline in the hideout below the game corner. The second rocket that's guarding the door to Giovanni also has the benefit of giving us just enough experience to finally evolve. Our transformation to Dusclops gives us a great boost to our already formidable defensive stats, but nearly doubles our offensive capabilities. Our speed, though, remains the same. Next, we find ourselves in Pokemon Tower facing down Rival 4. Freshly evolved, this battle is a cakewalk for Nyx. I chose the nickname Nyx because she's the Greek goddess and personification of night. Produced by Chaos, she mothered other personified deities like Hypnos, Sleep, Thanatos, Death, and Erebus, Darkness. It just seemed like a really cool nickname. As a fast growth rate Pokemon, I actually skipped every trainer except the mandatory ones through the rest of the tower, and that remains the case in Silphco. I run around grabbing all the typical high value items. While we're here, I think it's best to take a shot at Rival 5 as well. Because of our still somewhat lacking offensive capabilities, dealing with his lead Pidgeot isn't a problem, but we do have to tank 3 hits along the way. When choosing a rival team, I felt like the Blastoise team would be the most threatening, primarily in the mid-game, as in the late game after setting up they'd be of equal merit. Blastoise's bite is super effective and he's too tanky for us to defeat him right now. I dip over to Celadon because I now have the cash to buy Ice Beam from the game corner. While I'm here, I elect to defeat Erica as she shouldn't be much of a problem. I defeat the 2 trainers on the right side of her gym because the Oddish and Bulbasaur lines both give special attack EVs. With super effective Ice Beam on our side, her team is a series of Okos, or one-hit knockouts. Erica's Pokemon are not known for their speed, but I was also pleasantly surprised to find Nyx outspeeding all of them. I now found myself with 2 choices, back to Silph or Fuchsia City. Those of you who have been around my channel for a few videos know exactly where I'm going when I get to Fuchsia City. I love me some substitute strategies, and now with a very defensive Pokemon, we can finally use the move, properly? This slightly creepy dude in front of the Kangaskhan will teach it to us. I find him creepy because he just stands there, eternally, staring at the Kangaskhan, wanting to snuggle up in its belly pouch. Am I alone in feeling this? Anyways, with such a slow Pokemon, while I cruise through the Safari Zone, I make a quick detour to pick up the Quick Claw. Well held, it gives Nyx a 20% chance of moving first, and given that for most of the game before round 2, my held item is empty, I thought this would be nifty to have. Next we face Koga, the Poison-type specialist. The way that Substitute works in battle is it sacrifices a quarter of your max HP, giving it instead to a decoy that has a health pool equivalent to what you sacrificed. Probably the biggest advantage to this is that status conditions like Poison or stat-reducing moves like Smokescreen don't penetrate the decoy. The exception to this being abilities like Poison Point on Nidoking. If I use a physical move against it, I still have a 30% chance of being poisoned, as it's our Pokemon making contact, not the decoy. Koga is easy, with Nyx firing away with Psychics from behind the safety of a sub. Back in Sylph, facing down Rival 5 again, I did wipe once more. This time though, I'm coming in with a Citrus Berry that I grabbed from just outside the underground tunnel exit on Route 6. Against Pidgeot, I set up a sub, then fire away with Ice Beam, just barely not knocking it out. We clean it up on the next turn. Against Blastoise, you can see that once the decoy has taken more damage than it has health, it breaks, but no residual damage will affect our Pokemon. I spar back and forth with Blastoise, with our Citrus Berry activating, giving us another 30 health to play with. The rest of his team is straightforward. Examining our health at the end of the fight, we didn't need the extra recovery in this instance, but as is the case with most safety in Pokemon, and the world at large, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. We now move to clear out the Saffron City gym and obtain our 6th badge. I'm skipping all of the trainers in her gym as I feel confident that after obtaining TM4 Calm Mind from defeating her, we're going to be in good shape for the rest of the game. I'm kinda right. As a tanky ghost type though, Nyx carves through her team with stab, super effective, physical shadow punches. Our next badge lies on Cinnabar Island with Blaine, the fire-type leader. I haven't defeated any additional trainers along the way and used the Poké Quiz mechanic in his gym to avoid the battles. In case you're wondering, the answers are yes, no, 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 yes, no. Or as I remember them, mash A, B, 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 A, B. Against Blaine's lead Growlithe, I set up a sub and start setting up Calm Minds. An advantage to using Calm Mind is that it's also increasing our special defense, meaning that his Fire Blasts and Bites are doing less damage every turn. It's weird thinking about Bite as a special move, but it wasn't until Generation 4 that they did the physical special split instead of having it based on typing. At +3 though, we're able to dispatch his Arcanine, Ponyta, and finally Rapidash. Setup moves are incredibly strong. Our final badge awaits us back in Viridian City in Giovanni's gym. I clear only the 2 mandatory trainers before taking him on. In hindsight, I should have set up once or twice against his Rhyhorn, as it isn't very threatening and this battle gets a little tight near the end. But Duskull's bulk carries us through, claiming our 8th gym badge. Rival 6 is the gatekeeper of the Pokemon League. Against his lead Pidgeot, I'm actually surprised at how much damage it's doing to us as I try to set up. We take him down, but we're only at +2 with 51 health. We take down his next few Pokemon while taking some hits along the way because of our low speed. We come to his final Pokemon Alakazam with only 26 health, and yeah, there's no way that we're outspeeding it. Turn 1, I choose Ice Beam while he sets up with Calm Mind. That setup though definitely means that we do not get the Oko, and on the following turn he ends us with Psychic. I wiped twice more with even worse results before deciding to use 5 rare candies, bringing us to level 60 over 2 damage rounding thresholds. This time I set up to +3 against Pidgeot while behind a sub. I want to keep the decoy up as much as I can to avoid sand attacks. At +3 and with a much better health pool than before, Nyx can deal with his remaining Pokemon without issue. With that, we are off to the Round 1 Elite Four. Lorelei kicks us off. Against her lead Dugong, I begin immediately setting up Calm Minds. I set up to +5 and barely don't get the Oko. She heals and it seems that it was a damage range as we take her down on the next turn, but that hail damage is becoming a problem fast. If we couldn't Oko Dugong, we definitely can't get Lapras in one. We managed to take it out because we're so chunky with our setup and drop Cloyster as well. Against Slowbro, it seals our fate using Yawn turn 1. Nyx takes down Slowbro on the next turn, but then falls asleep once Jinx hits the field. Asleep and at 7 HP after the hail damage, Jinx obviously takes us down. Mind the timer for a second. Oh yeah, that's a jump of over 13 minutes. I wiped more, did some grinding, wiped even more, and now I'm coming back to the fight at level 68 over 2 damage rounding thresholds. I don't even know what happened in this fight, but Nyx got absolutely spanked. This time I set up to +3, also including a sub in the mix. I try for the knockout but leave Dugong in red bar. I predict the heal, taking the opportunity to set up once more with Calm Mind to get the Oko next turn. I can take out Lapras in 2 shots while she breaks our decoy. Cloyster falls to 1, bringing us back to Slowbro. I fire off a resisted Psychic turn 1 doing over half while it uses Amnesia. I don't want this turning into a stall fest that we lose because we aren't using full restores. I have just enough health to establish one last sub, so I do and set up an additional 2 Calm Minds while she fails Yawns against the decoy. I can then safely take out Slowbro and Jinx for the victory. Bruno should be a joke for Nyx to handle. Our decoy even survives a stab critical hit Earthquake from Onyx while I set up to only +1 and go for the sweep. Because of our speed, we take some extra hits through the fight, but Bruno gets cleaned up easily. Oh, Agatha. Agatha, Agatha, Agatha. I'm writing this script after having completed the entirety of the first playthrough, so I'm still suffering the occasional nightmare from her. In the round 1 battle, we witnessed some of her shenanigans landing and causing issues, but we managed to make it through. Seems easy, right? Wait until round 2. Lance actually ends up being a problem. His Gyarados is loving using super effective bites causing flinches, and when he's not doing that, he's hitting us for a quarter of our health with Dragon Rage. I barely get in any setup before having to take him out. Then, with the additional damage we suffer from being slower than Aerodactyl and his Ace Dragonite, we fall. I wiped twice more here before the solution hit me. Thank goodness earlier in the game I had the forethought to grab TM44 Rest from the SSN, otherwise it would have been gone forever. I actually teach it over Substitute, goodbye my darling, and try again, this time being able to set up to +5 and have green health when Gyarados falls. Thinking back, Rest would have made darn near every fight more consistent in this league. Oh my goodness. Sub-strats finally not best strats? Cool. With our setup and excellent health, Nyx blasts through Lance's remaining team with ease. Against the round 1 champion, we immediately see the disadvantage of Rest to Substitute. We're open to sand attacks. Nyx's eye is almost completely full of sand by the time we take down Pidgeot, but we're also set up all the way to +6. Check this out. We now have so much sustain that despite how many times we're missing, we can take out Arcanine, rest and heal before taking out Blastoise, and Alakazam. Here I'm gonna hit the turbo function on the footage. We go through so many turn cycles with Exeggutor, but it turns out patience is a virtue as we eventually take it down. We get lucky against Rhydon, hitting it turn 1 for the Oko. I'm now equal parts scared and excited for round 2. Substitute with Leftovers is a first-class combination, but since we taught over Substitute, we can never learn it again in this playthrough. But also, I'm excited to see some rest strats. Nyx clocks in with a round 1 time of 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 22 seconds at level 72 with 21 resets. This took 5 hours and 36 minutes of game time. I continue through the Sevi Island plotline where Rest continues to be a great asset as we're about to see. As always, my mind has been whirring away trying to find optimizations and tweaks that I can make along the way. Against the final Rocket admin, look at how much sustain we have with Leftovers and Rest. It's actually ludicrous, I love it. But let's see how the round 2 league goes without my ability to hide. The Round 2 League features most Pokemon leveling up by around 12 levels, as well as some team and moveset changes. Lorelei still leads with Dugong, who is now always super keen to set up a million double teams. I let her as we do our own setup, setting up to +4, miss a bunch of Psychics, then +5 because I was nervous about our PP being wasted. We get the Oko once we finally hit. Because both our special attack and special defense are set up, I feel almost no threat from her remaining team as we take out Cloyster, Piloswine, Jinx with 2 shots as she resists both of our moves, and finally her ace Lapras. So then there's Bruno. He's not that impressive. I set up to +2, missing the one-shot, and then +3, while Steelix can barely outdamage our leftover recovery. Nyx takes some chunky hits through the fight as Bruno's Pokemon have much better move diversity, but that's it. I could have used Rest if I felt more threatened. Alright, round 2 Agatha is a hard fight for Nyx. I try my darndest to set up against her lead Gengar, but her Shadow Balls are doing too much damage for us to sustain it. Remember too that Shadow Ball is a physical move in this generation, so our setup is not reducing the damage we take. Gengar eats us alive. This happened over and over, as I even tried equipping a Chesto Berry instead of leftovers, a very rare thing for me to do in round 2. After 4 wipes and 4 rare candies bringing us up to level 83 over 2 damage rounding thresholds, we have this battle. I set up to +2 and start trying to get the Oko. I then miss the Oko on Misdreavus as Agatha continues her barrage of Shadow Balls. I mean, I can't blame her, I'd be doing the same thing. Predicting the heal, I set up one more Calm Mind and then take it out. We continue through, taking one hit and getting the Oko against her Ace Gengar, very threatening Crobat, and Arbok, with Nyx hanging on at 25 HP, or only around 13% of our max health. Whew! Dragon Doctoral Lance is next, and typically a super easy fight when you have Substitute. But we don't this time, so I'm a little scared, as Gyarados begins setting up Dragon Dances, increasing its attack and speed. I managed to set up to +3 against it, but I have to take it out quickly because him setting up puts us on the clock. Next is Kingdra, and we set up twice more with Calm Mind, bringing us to +5. I don't care that it too is using DD, as its only physical move is Hyper Beam, which can't hit Nyx. We continue taking hits from his Dragonite and Aerodactyl, so when his Ace Dragonite comes out, I use Rest for safety. This was a small time loss, as it seems that Dragonite can't outdamage our leftovers, but I was not taking the risk. The Round 2 Champions team is easily one of the hardest out there for a solo Pokemon. He leads with Heracross, but because of Nyx's insane tankiness and healing, I can set all the way up to +6 in 2 batches of 3 Calm Minds between resting. I heal up once more and take it out. I take a hit from and knock out both Alakazam and Tyranitar, leading us to Arcanine. Arcanine has an interesting moveset as its most powerful stab fire move is Overheat with 140 base power but reduces its special attack by 2 stages when used. We survive the first one, which means Arcanine is in the bag after we recover against it with Rest. Back in green, we then take out his remaining Exeggutor and Ace Blastoise, the final Pokemon in Nyx's Round 2 challenge. I'm gonna have to do some testing, but I have a sneaking suspicion that we might not be using Substitute in our second playthrough. This is super exciting for me, as I'm keen to find new strategies that aren't just sub and set up. Nyx clocks in with a round 2 time of 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 49 seconds at level 85 with 25 resets. This took 7 hours and 11 minutes of game time. Coming into the second playthrough, we don't see a ton of changes leading up to Brock. I've kept our nature as modest and plan to defeat all of the same trainers, Bugcatchers Anthony and Sammy, then healing in Pewter before coming back for Bugcatcher Charlie. This combined with Camper Liam and Brock's gym levels us up to 11 before engaging Brock. I am planning on defeating more trainers past Brock though, a little piece of experience routing that I was quite pleased with. Brock is just as straightforward as last time. 3 Nightshades for both his Geodude and Onix, while we remain completely unthreatened by Geodude, and barring a crit from Onix, it can't outdamage us. I defeat only the Bugcatchers along Route 3 because I still can't hit normal types. In Mount Moon, I do make some changes. I usually buy 4 Repels and Pewter to carry us through Mount Moon, but this time I bought 7. If I have extra, I can always use them in Rock Tunnel. I also grabbed the Escape Rope so that I can use up my PP, quickly escape, heal, and then continue through the cave. That extra training, plus the 2 trainers in Misty's gym, brings us perfectly to level 21. I once again used the 2 rare candies we've collected to this point to increase our level to 23, learning Confuse Ray, leading us into Rival 2. Our baloney remains strong, but smell isn't everything. We defeat Rival 2 on the first attempt with the addition of Confuse Ray to our moveset, cutting Pidgeotto and Squirtle's consistency. Abra and Rattata were no threat at all, as Abra can't do anything and Rattata can only hit us with Tail Whip. I follow the same route as last run, defeating Misty, Rival 3 on the SSN, making sure to dip downstairs to grab TM44 Rest, and Lieutenant Surge. This brings us back to the mid-game where I made a couple of changes. After clearing the rocket hideout and evolving to Duskull, this time I head south to Erica's gym. As you can see, I have my army of Meowths with me this time, hoping for TM10 hidden power, as I decided to use our money to focus on vitamins and optimizing our EV distribution, but I'm still popping in to grab the coin case. You'll find out why later. I stick to the right side again in the gym for the special attack EVs. I equip a Cherry Berry and lead off against Erica. Despite coming in at a lower level, Duskull still has no problems here, with a mid-game moveset of Shadow Punch, HP Dark, Rest, and Nightshade, which will be replaced with Psychic right after this battle. I then defeat Rival 4 in Pokémon Tower and head to Sylph. Aside from the extra trainers in Mount Moon, I haven't been defeating any additional trainers to this point. I do the same item collection, and since we're a slightly higher level than last time, I decided to attempt Rival 5. This wasn't part of the original plan, but I thought the time save might be nice if it's possible. It seems that our rival has other plans though, as just like last run, he's a bit of a brick wall. I wipe here, but learn my lesson and move on immediately, heading to Fuchsia City. I defeat Koga along with a handful of trainers in his gym. In between, I also stopped by the department store to max out our vitamins, prioritizing special attack, then speed, then defense. We can set up our special defense, so I'm way less worried about that. With our boosted stats and level, I defeat Rival 5, Giovanni, and then come to Sabrina's gym. This time I defeat every trainer in her gym. I wanted to save my grinding for her gym for the EVs and better experience yields than Pokémon Tower. I will also be clearing out all of Blaine's gym for decent EVs, good experience, and money from the burglars, but will only clear the mandatory trainers in the 8th gym. I defeat Sabrina, Blaine, and Giovanni before heading towards Rival 6. This time I use a whopping 9 rare candies, every candy that I've collected to this point, bringing us to level 67. Lorelei is consistent at 68, so with the experience we gained from Rival 6 and the mandatory trainer in Victory Road, we hit level 68 before entering the league. Dugong kicks us off as we set up to +5, also taking incrementally less damage because of our setup. We take down her lead, leveling up to 69. Nice. Lapras is next and survives with a sliver. Dope! That's alright though, as we take it out on the next turn. As Cloyster hits the field, our health is a little low, so I use Rest to recover. Fantastic. Because we're rolling with HP Dark this time, I have a super effective option against both Slowbro and Jinx. They both get O-Code. I was trying to think of something clever to say about Bruno, but then I noticed that the footage had already ended because he's such a joke for Duskull to defeat. Moving on. Here we are at Agatha again, the bane of this run. Seriously, I only need a single Calm Mind to be able to sweep her team, but, this is Agatha. I continue picking apart her team one by one. Generally in these runs, once you make it to Haunter, you've already won. Not today. Haunter outspeeds, putting us to sleep and eating our dreams until we fall. This time I do the exact same strategy but with slightly less bad luck, and against her Arbok I use Rest, recovering back to full. Of course this time Haunter goes for Curse, taking down its own health by half as I finish it off. You gotta love the RNG. This time I have a plan against Dragon Master Lance. I set up to +7 against his Gyarados. Oh, wait, you can only set up to +6. Well, I tried anyway, definitely wasn't a misclick. It might be tough to see with the footage moving so fast, but it's there. I recover and take down his lead. I start knocking out his team members, of course taking hits along the way because of how slow we are. It's when his Dragonair hits the field that my heart skips a beat. It actually knows Dragon Rage, and that thing just deleted over half our remaining health. I actually panicked a bit here, wondering if the second Dragonair has Dragon Rage too. It uses Outrage, which we tank easily, and I looked it up while writing the script. We're good. No Dragon Rage on the second Dragonair. Coming down from that little mini panic attack has led us to our flub of the day. I forgot to use an elixir before coming into the champion. Whoops. Alright, let's see if we can make this work. I get my setup in against Pidgeot, but because he got 4 sand attacks in, I am a little worried. After a bunch of misses, we find ourselves against Blastoise, and after a bunch of turns trying to deplete PP, I just decided that this was too slow and we were probably gonna white anyway. Cut. And action! Okay, let's try this again. We've got this, right? If last run was any indication, we have a fair amount of safety in this fight as long as we manage our health well with Rest. And that would be true if it weren't for Sand Attack. We have some safety built in for sure, but we can't handle missing 3 times consecutively against Rhydon. We take another reset. I've had about enough of this wretched bird, so I want to knock it out this time. Thanks for the Sand Attack turn 1, real original. Psychic is doing less than half, so I set up 1 Calm Mind and go again for the knockout. Alright, Arcanine I can handle. I resume my setup, bringing Dusclops all the way to +6, resting in the middle for safety. I then use HP Dark for the Oko. Against Blastoise, I heal back up with Rest before taking it down, then Alakazam, Exeggutor, and finally Rhydon. Amazing how much better that battle goes when you can hit things, eh? As Tay-Tay always says, we have to shake it off, because we still have another whole league to go. Dusclops clocks in with a round 1 time of 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 56 seconds at level 73 with 5 resets. This took 5 hours of game time. I have a couple of extra chores between the leagues while doing the Sevi Island plotline. I managed to pick up 2 rare candies with my Meowth throughout the game so far, so I do a little extra travel, grabbing another 2 from the ground. I want to have 4 going into the round 2 league. I also backtrack to Celadon City to pick up TM13 Ice Beam again. After the round 1 league and Sevi Island plotline, we find ourselves with 85k, just over what's required for Ice Beam. With our final moveset, leftovers, and a steely willpower, we make our way back to the Pokemon League. Lorelei is incredibly straightforward because of her lead Dugong's love of Double Team. Set up all you want, I will too. Except when I'm set up to +6, her entire team can't really touch me, and I will eventually knock out Dugong. We only miss once and take it out before then getting an Oko against Cloyster, Piloswine, Jinx, and her ace Lapras. Bruno's got some beef with me for making fun of him in the last round. It doesn't help that I also misclicked on turn 1, putting us to sleep. With that said though, his lead Steelix gets a couple of speed drops, that's fine, but also a defense drop with Iron Tail before we take it out. Steelix 2 comes out, also getting a 30% defense drop with a 75% accurate Iron Tail. As a result, once Hitmonlee hits the field, we're too banged up, and at -2 defense, his Earthquake takes us down. That right there is why all the data I collect through these runs is highly subjective. Between my own misplays and subjective strategic choices, we see a lot of deviation between individual runs. Then you toss in the massive RNG factor in Pokemon games on top of that? Don't get me wrong, I love doing these runs and comparing data points between Pokemon, but we are far from empirical truth. Get out of here, Bruno. Alright, round 2 Agatha. Once we defeat her, we should be pretty much in the clear with this run. I set up to only +1 against her lead Gengar before taking it down with Psychic. But we have another problem that I didn't foresee. I didn't really mind which gender Dusclops was because it wasn't super relevant. We're not using attract strats. But Misdreavus is. Oh no. We take it down but have just taken too much damage throughout the battle so that once Crobat hits the field, we fall. I wiped once more against her because we were just too smitten with Misdreavus to do anything. Agatha is the reason why I focused more heavily on vitamins on my defense. It helps in other places, sure, but her Shadow Balls were the main reason. I'm taking a ton of damage again, so against her Ace Gengar I decide to use Rest. Thank goodness for those extra defense EVs as we survive Shadow Ball with 4 health. We heal to full, but this is super risky as Gengar is getting some big hits. Fortunately, this Gengar only knows attacking moves, but wow! Our only saving grace is that Arbok can't learn Shadow Ball, and since we aren't weak to Earthquake, we survive with 29 health. We finished her with 25 remaining last run at the same level. Those 4 hit points really mattered. Against Lance, though, we might be able to catch our breath for a second. Remember how last run I said that Gyarados setting up with DD would put us on the clock? Yeah, check this out. After being fully paralyzed at a key moment, Gyarados hits 2 Earthquakes, taking us from full to only 31 HP, around a 1/6 of our max. Thankfully, we take it down using Kingdra to recover and finish our setup. From there, we take it out, the following Dragonite, then Aerodactyl, and his Ace Dragonite. At a certain point, you have to ask yourself, is this bad luck or bad planning? Possibly both? My goodness, this league has been intense, and we're not done yet. I use not just an elixir, but a max elixir and heal up. Champion time. Alright, there's some weirdness that's about to happen. The champion usually sent out Arcanine second against Duskull, so I decided that it was safer to set up against than Heracross. I set up once and go for the KO, but Heracross survives with a Sliver and he switches into Tyranitar? What is happening? We take it down after tanking some Earthquakes. Okay, Alakazam can be a little nasty, but I think we can finish our setup here. After some back and forth and resting twice, we are now set up to +3. I am feeling super threatened, so in combination with the Sandstorm damage, I fire off an Ice Beam, taking it down. Executor is next and gets taken down in one shot. Heracross is back out and gets knocked out by his own teammate Sandstorm. Alright, Arcanine. I rest back to full and finish setting up to +6. Okay, we've got this. I go for Psychic, but Arcanine moves first, hitting a critical hit Overheat, knocking us out from 127 HP at +6 special defense. What even is this game anymore? Oh, okay. As a wise Minotaur once said, game face, bro. This time I set up fully against Heracross, resting twice to knock it down while we're still in green health, like darn near full. Alakazam, Oko. Tyranitar, Oko. Arcanine, Oko. Executor, Oko after some trolling. And finally Blastoise, Oko. Am I the only one thinking about ESPN 8, the Ocho, from Dodgeball when I say Oko? It's the little things like that make me smile and keep me motivated during some of these more, trying circumstances. Duskull clocks in with a round 2 time of 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 25 seconds at level 85 with 9 resets. This took 6 hours and 25 minutes of game time. Well, that was sure a run alright. Duskull is actually a ton of fun to play as a solo Pokemon. I'm really glad that I got to experience a bulkier Pokemon for once. But how much did we improve over the last run? In our second playthrough, we managed to save time across the board. There are some pretty major fluctuations throughout the mid-game, but remember, I did change the routing. By the time we got back to Blaine, we're stable again, with the big time saves being at the end of the Round 1 League and Round 2 League, with a total time save of 25 minutes and 24 seconds, with 16 less resets at the same level with about 3/4 of an hour of game time saved. This places Duskull in our tier list just above Cacturne from last week in the B tier. The times are only about a minute apart from each other, but despite our leagues with Duskull, I found it to be the more consistent feeling Pokemon. Sorry Tauros, but to keep things even, you're getting bumped down. Love you, buddy. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. Last week, I took a moment to thank you all for your support because we had just hit 100 subscribers. At the time of finishing this script and video, we have now crested 400. I can't thank you all enough for the support that you've been showing me. It means so much. If you feel like I've earned it, leave a like and comment about your thoughts. I've been loving hearing all of your feedback, suggestions, and support. Of course, you can always just say hi. Greetings. Today, we may have found a better strategy, but I'm still a firm believer in sub-strats best strats. If you'd like to keep up with my future releases, make sure to hit that sub button and ring the bell so you never miss a video. For next week, I'll be tackling a project that I am so excited to keep working on. The box art legendaries from Generation 3 collide, and this time Rayquaza will not be interfering. Tune in next week for the fabled clash between land and sea, Groudon versus Kyogre. Until next time, take care everyone.